Recording. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now that we have all that figured out, welcome to our second event for Pride, Queer Kids Comics with Cathy G. Johnson.
Awesome.
I'm Sarah. I run Rainbow Readers of Massachusetts, which is a queer genre fiction book club out of Annie's Bookstop of Worcester. I've been doing that for 5 years, and today we have Cathy. My pronouns are she, her, and we can get this started.
Hi, I'm Cathy. My pronouns are she, her, but I identify as genderqueer.
Okay. So Cathy, tell us a bit about yourself, like your comics and how you got into writing and that sort of thing.
Well, I've been making comics for basically my entire life. I think that's probably true for everyone who makes comics. I feel like I invented zines when I was like in elementary school, and I feel like every zinester feels like they invented zines. My first comic was about a raccoon that was saving a duck from drowning, which seems like a strange
It's probably very cute.
Yeah, but I have 3 books out now. I have like tons of stuff that are self-published. I've been self-publishing since, not literally since elementary school, but you know, everyone draws their own zines and stuff. But I've been making zines, like mass-produced, like 5, 10, since high school. And then, but I have 3 published books. And the third one is The Breakaways, which is what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I have Jeremiah and your punk rock one. Or not punk rock, but the punk one.
Yeah, gorgeous. Yep.
Yes.
I don't have those in handy.
I'm fairly certain I have those. I don't know where on my comic book shelf they are, but I believe I got those from you at one of the many mice I've seen you at.
Yeah, yep. I'm a frequenter of mice. I live in Providence, Rhode Island, so Massachusetts, it's like I'm there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Breakaways for those who don't know about your adorable kid comic.
Yeah, so The Breakaways is about it's about a middle school soccer team. They are the worst soccer team. They are not the A team, not the B team, but the C team, so like worse than JV. So no one really knows the rules of soccer. I never really learned the rules because it's inspired by my time in middle school being a soccer player.
I feel that. I don't remember the rules of soccer either when I played. I think I just ran back and forth.
I learned a little bit to actually be able to draw this book, but at the time I didn't know any. And then it's about sort of making friendships and having relationships with other people on your team. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to draw and write and storyboard all of The Breakaways?
I'd say it took me about okay, so it's hard. 6 years total, but hear me out. Came up with the original idea in 2013, and the book was published in 2019. But I think the actual drawing and the writing part were maybe 2 to 3 years, and then a lot of that padding was publishing time, because you're a bookstore, you know how long publishing can take sometimes. So there is there's like an additional 3 years that I had no control over. Yeah.
So it's nice to have it out in the world now and in kids' hands and
yes, I know.
Libraries and bookstores and everywhere else books are.
Yeah, it is really awesome. I remember the first time, it's been out for about a year now. But I remember the first time I was sitting at a convention, and it was a kids convention in New Hampshire. I didn't turn off my phone, I'm so sorry. I'm embarrassed. It was a kids convention in New Hampshire, and it was maybe like a month after the book had officially arrived. And I had done a bunch of conventions at that point because I was really excited about the book, so I wanted to advertise and do it a lot. And then I was sitting there, and I had a big pile of the book, and a kid comes up, and her parent is also there, and and her parent's like, "Oh, how about this book?" And she goes, "I've read that." And I was like, I've never experienced that ever. I was like, "I made it." And she was like, "You made it?" Like, it's like kids don't necessarily get that people make books. You know, I feel like books are just like in the world, and then
things that appear whenever they want them to appear. And
yeah, so it was like, what, you made that? But she had read it in her library. It was just in her school library. And I was like, I don't care that you didn't buy this book right now. This is like the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. It was awesome.
So of all the characters in Breakaways, who is your favorite?
Oh, interesting. So whenever I get asked this, I always choose Yara Lise, who is this character. She's the goalie. She is also, there's a band in the book. I don't want to do too many spoilers, but she plays an instrument, and she's like kind of the coolest character. Like, if you had to look at all the characters, she's the most mature, and she's the most kind of over middle school. Like, they're all like tired of middle school because middle school is exhausting. But she's the like coolest one. So I always say Yara Lise because she's like the coolest.
I really enjoyed reading it even as an adult, and sometimes like how middle grade YA and younger stuff can like not feel as like relatable as you're an adult, but like this was just like, yes, this very much feels like how middle school was, how soccer was for me. It was great.
Thank you.
What did you set out with this one to include queer characters in it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because like this soccer team I think has a total of 12 characters throughout the book. There's like 15 characters that have a storyline in the book, but 12 of them play on the soccer team at some point. And just at some point it feels unrealistic to not have queer characters in a book. If there's like 12 people on the soccer team, a couple of them are going to be queer, right?
And it's also soccer, which is very gay, so
yeah. I think so.
If you look at the women's league, then yes.
I think there's a lack of attention that women's professional sports in general gets, because that's where all the lesbians are. That's where we should. I feel like, why are we only paying attention to men's sports? There's like so much more exciting things happening in women's sports.
Exactly. I think what you've done with the Breakaways is really important because it shows kids that they don't have to be great at sports. They can just be good at being friends, and that while middle school sucks, as long as you've got a great group of friends to help you through everything, that it'll be okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a teacher, and I've worked with middle schoolers for, I don't know, I'm approaching 10 years now working with middle schoolers, and I work with so many different ages. But middle school is my favorite age, and part of that is because it's a very difficult time. I think if you ask anyone, they'll be like, they'll usually, like, I feel like a lot of people's memories when they're thinking about their past and they're thinking about, oh, I can't believe I did this thing and I'm really embarrassed that I did this thing, it's almost always your middle school years. Because I think middle school, you're like growing a lot, and you're going from child to like teenager, and that transition is really uncomfortable and rocky, and you try out being mean, and you try out being nice, and you try to figure out who you are. And I think it's just a really difficult time for like every person on earth. So part of why I think middle school is really great to teach is because I'm an art teacher and they are like wild. And in art, you can kind of express yourself and you can do whatever you want in the art classroom and be like really fun and wild. So I really like middle schoolers because they're also like, don't have like I feel like teenagers can get embarrassed, but middle schoolers have like this like, they don't have like an inhibition. They just want to like explode.
It's like you're at that stage where you've come out of elementary school and you're not quite self-conscious of the world yet, so you don't care what you do.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like completely clicky. Just go draw whatever you want. Like, I remember drawing, I would create it on individual pieces of paper towns for my classmates. And then I think it ended up being like a 30-foot long roll of paper, and I just kept adding pieces to it. And not
I love that.
Like, I don't even know if I drew on the rest of it. I just remember adding each section of it. Okay, now it's another foot longer. It's another foot longer. My teacher would be like, Sarah, don't you want to do something else? I'd be like, no. She's like, okay.
I love that. That's so cool. I want to do that project with my kids. Just do a giant town. I love that. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting age, and also I think it's like a untapped demographic for books. Like, there's a lot of middle grade chapter books, but I feel like actual comics, there's like Raina Telgemeier, and then like the middle grade, it's like almost everything gets shoved into YA, especially queer stuff. When I was making this book, I had absolutely no concept that having a transgender character and having a lesbian character in a middle school book, like a very specifically for like 8-year-olds and up, was like earth-shattering. Like, I had no idea, because I was like, of course, like, you know, you're figuring out who you are and you're exploring yourself. That's like what middle school is. But like, it is like, my Goodreads score is like tanked by like bigotry, basically. Like, I had no idea. And like, I mean, I really didn't know. And I've been contacted by like middle schools, like, but I've been told like I'm on banned book lists and stuff. You don't really I mean, I genuinely had no idea.
Like, I can't imagine the Breakaways being on a banned book list.
You know, if you feel like, because there is a transgender character and he comes out in the story, and if you think that is inappropriate for children, I know there's like nothing inappropriate in my book unless you are, I don't know, a hateful. Unless you're a hateful person.
Hateful and ignorant person. It doesn't. I think we're in a time right now, especially with kids comics, that we're seeing a lot more in terms of queer kids comics. Like, we have Molly Knox Ostertag? Ostertag in her Witch Boy series, and we got Katie O'Neill's Tea Society Dragons. There we go. And it's just...
Yeah. And she also has Princess, which I would say skews younger.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet, but most likely I think it does, yeah.
Yeah, so like Princess is like, because it's been out for a while. It's also by Katie, right?
I think so.
I wish I had it. I'm so sorry. I could find it. But it skews younger because basically it's like there's a knight, there's a lady knight, and she's also a princess, and she defeats a dragon, saves another princess, and then they get married at the end. And you wouldn't know if you're reading it. And I've brought that book to comics workshops with kids, and they'll flip through it and they'll like be reading it, and then at the end they see the wedding and they're like, and then they flip right back to the beginning and reread it with the context, knowing that they're gay. And it's like so beautiful. I've seen kids do that more than one time. It's like so awesome.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Do you, especially with Scholastic and first and second, or first second, is it just first second, not first and second?
It's just first second. It's
okay.
The first, like the time. It's the first second.
Okay.
It's not 1, 2.
Do you think like the big 5 publishers are more open to kids comics directed like into schools, into libraries than like Marvel or DC or Vertigo are?
What do you mean?
Like, do you think they're publishing more, like more accessible stuff?
I mean, it's interesting. It depends on who you talk to, because some people are like, yeah, Watchmen should be in every school library, and it's like extremely violent. So it's like, because they're like, it's a classic or something.
I don't think a 10-year-old should be reading Watchmen.
I know, but it is. See, that one gets through. But there's something about that, like being about queer characters, that feels more inappropriate to these censors, right? I'm not sure.
I wonder why. Violence is fine, but if someone kisses another person who's of the same sex, no.
And the thing is with my lesbian character, it was actually kind of important to me for her to find out who she is without any sort of crush. It's just like who she feels like she knows who she is, and she decides to come out, but it's not like, she's not like, I have this crush on this person, so I discovered that this thing about myself. I wanted it to be really about like identity more than like a relationship, like a romantic relationship.
Which is really important to see, because a lot of kids comment, or a lot of queer media in general, it shows it as having to be in a relationship a lot of the time.
Yeah, I feel like when I have talked about it, because I have talked about it, I've been invited to talk to schools with who have banned my book, and I was like, that sounds unsafe. But I have talked about it in other contexts. And like, I think, like focusing on identity more, like people know who they are in their identity. It's like not like, because when people say the word sexuality, it sometimes can mean sexual orientation and your identity, and sometimes it can mean human sexuality, which isn't necessarily inappropriate, right? There's like sex ed, there's like ways to learn about that in an appropriate, age appropriate way. But like, I'm talking about like identity, like your sexual identity is not human sexuality, right? And so like, I think when you're talking about kids like queer representation in kids comics, I think when you're having that discussion, I think it's really helpful to sort of make that a little bit more clear when you're talking about it. So that's part of why I'm like, I just want her to be like, this is just her identity, right? This is just who she is.
Yeah, like it's on the page, the word is used.
Yeah.
And just so like kids know that there's a word that they can use, rather than stuff that will bounce around and not actually name it.
Yeah, I think that was also key too, because I feel like a lot of queer kids media, and frankly any sort of media that is dealing with like what seems like it could be like a larger topic, or a topic that needs scaffolding, right? That's like teacher lingo for like learning more about it, right? Sort of the famous example is teaching kids about global warming. You aren't like, the earth is dying. You tell them to recycle, right? And then you sort of scaffold up from that idea. But for me, I feel like, so a lot of queer kids media can like sort of not use the words, right? Not use the actual words, use these metaphors that can get confused. Like they are like, I'm a pear and I'm supposed to like bananas, but I like other pears. like it's like like I think maybe at some point it's more helpful to just be like, I'm a girl who likes other girls, and that is a lesbian.
Exactly. Like a lot of kids stuff will do it like there'll be fruit, or there'll be animals or stuff like that.
Animals.
Like, I posted a picture on Twitter yesterday of a picture book called Uncle Bobby's Wedding. And it's like about this gay interracial couple that's getting married. And a friend commented, oh, is that the new cover and the new illustrations? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, they used to be hamsters.
Oh, no!
2008 version was 2 gay hamsters getting married.
Oh, my.
And now the updated version is very pretty and very well done. It's gorgeous. And I was like, I'm glad we've moved beyond hamsters.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think that's the direction we should be going in. Yeah.
So I will say, if anyone who is listening also has more questions for Cathy, feel free to drop them in the chat. Yes. And I will answer them as we go. So feel free to do that. So what are some of your favorite comics that you like to read, kids or
Oh my gosh,
weird and otherwise?
Sarah, I have a giant pile that I set next to me in preparation. Okay, all right, okay. So I figured I would start out with other queer. So again, I feel like it's sort of an untapped, like queer kids, not YA, is still something that we need more of, I think. Drama has like a gay character, which is awesome, and it has a gay kiss, which is awesome. Good job, Raina Telgemeier. But I think there's more. There could always have more. So I have Our Dreams at Dusk. Have you read this one, Sarah?
I have all 4 of them, actually.
Oh my gosh. Lovely. It's a manga series. It's complete in 4 books, which is such a nice, neat length, because sometimes they are quite long. I think this one is really wonderful because it's really about like a queer like group that has like everyone has their own identity and they come out in their own time if they want to come out. And I think it's like it has like a lot of like gay and lesbian and trans solidarity, which is like really wonderful to see.
I read the first one and then I just bought the other 3 just to have the other 3.
Oh my gosh, it's quite lovely, and also it's intergenerational. So like this group has like older adults, and then it has like teenagers, and it even has kids with like gay parents or exploring different stuff. And I think it's like such a lovely series. So that one's called Our Dreams at Dusk. Lovely series. Oh, there's a kitty here. Annie's Bookstop of Worcester currently has a kitty cat. So if you are in the Zoom for a kitty cat, I just wanted to give you that alert. And then I also have That Blue Sky Feeling.
I had the first one of that, and then I attempted to read the second one, and it was very much, I have a crush on a straight dude, and it kept going with that thread, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah,
oh,
I know.
no.
That one is a classic gay romance trope that's annoying. It's also, this one also completes in 3 issues, which is great. 3 books. And I think it's like, I just really like these stories that aren't like very quick coming out stories. Like they're like exploring different questions. And like, I'd say this one, like what Sarah was alluding to, I'd say this one is more like answering questions. And so it's a little bit more didactic. Which a lot of queer media can have a habit of ending up being didactic, because like I was told, I have a transgender boy in my book, and I was told that I needed to define the word trans. Like I can't just say that, I need to explain it, which is sort of annoying. But I did it, so that's all right. But I also understand the usefulness. If it's the first time a reader comes across that word, it's useful to have it defined.
Yeah.
So
like a lot of times at like conventions or stuff, it's always a Queer 101 panel, and very rarely there's like Queer 102 or Queer 103 or like Advanced Queer.
It's true. And actually, I mean, that's part of what I like about Our Dreams at Dusk, because it is it is like, it's like complicated and has a lot to do with feelings. About identity and like struggling with that, and I think it's quite beautiful. And then this one just came out, The Fire Never Goes Out by Noelle Stevenson, Molly Ostertag's wife. They just got married.
I don't have that one yet.
It just came out. I'm very happy. I think it came out in like February.
I've been to a comic book store in a very long time.
I know.
Though I actually got to go into a bookstore today.
You did? I haven't gone in person in a long time.
I was in Northampton, and one of the bookstores there happened to be open. We have a limit of 8 people in at a time. I had to wear masks and gloves, and then like you can only stay max 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sad, but it's a bookstore. You can.
This is actually good. Annie's Bookstop of Worcester. Are you open for visitors?
They're open for curbside and appointments right now, I think.
Yes, curbside and appointments, yeah. So you can call us. I can give you the number. It's 508, just to plug, 508-796-5655. 5613, and you can get an appointment. And I'm not sure if it's on the hour or exactly which, but call and Patty will tell you when you can come in.
And I do know that there are copies of Breakaways, 25% off in the store.
Wow! Is that for Pride Month?
I
Or
think
just for fun? Just 25% off.
most new, because it's a new and used bookstore, most of the new books are 20% off or
Wow.
greater. Just because
Good deal.
that's the deal that the bookstore does. It's great.
Yeah, that's great. I really do want to visit. We had this to open the curtain a little bit. We had this planned a long time ago, and it was going to be the day before my birthday, and I was going to come up and visit. And I've wanted to visit Annie's bookstore for so long. I haven't been able to do it. It's very annoying, but that's okay. It's okay to do it virtually too, Sarah.
It's okay. You did it the day before my birthday.
Is it your birthday tomorrow? Oh, that's so cool. Summer. So this book is lovely because it's a coming of age again, finding out you're a lesbian, which is really nice, but it's like a memoir, and Noelle is also a friend. I should feel like I need to confess.
I mean, Noelle and Molly are great. They did She-Ra.
Yeah, they are great. Yeah, I don't think Molly has anything to do with She-Ra, but Noelle did do She-Ra. I mean, she lives with, I'm sure she has lots of things to do with it, but she wasn't an actual employee. So Are You Listening by Tilly Walden. Also, maybe for older readers, I actually think this would be great for a younger reader. Not like a kid, but I think a middle schooler would love this book. So that's why I wanted to bring that one. And then Are You Listening? This is just like an advertisement. It's beautiful. Tilly Walden identifies as a lesbian, and both these characters are a lesbian, and it's like this magical road trip, and it's really fantastic. For like older readers,
we have our first question.
Oh, I'm just talking now.
We can go back to the comic book roadshow in a moment. Got any advice on writing queer kid comics while avoiding getting too didactic?
Yeah, I'd say this is, I think this is a conundrum, because I think the didactic is coming from publishers, right? I think they are requesting a little bit more explanation on what it is to be transgender, on like what it is to be gay. I think they want that right now, and I think that's because they think it's more marketable, right? So like things like My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness was like super popular, but also it's kind of didactic with what being a lesbian is.
The same with My Bride Was a Boy. That from sentences. That was very much, here's what it like means to be trans in Japan. And it's like, this is very cute, and I can see this being like a starter comic for people like trying to explain it to their relative or something.
Yeah, which is interesting because I was about to pull up Genderqueer, which is also very didactic. And so it's like,
love that comic so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, but it definitely is like, this is what being trans is. And I do wonder if that's coming from publishers, not necessarily the authors themselves, or coming from people telling us what we're supposed to make. So I think you have to do your own, like, when I explained transgender in the book because it was requested of me, but I tried to make it feel natural to the characters, like to the way a middle schooler would explain it to another middle schooler, not like, because they had pitched to me, my editor pitched to me, they find a book and they look up the word transgender. And I was like, I can't do that.
The middle schooler is not going to look it up in a book. They're going to look it up on the internet.
Yeah, it's like, that's just not the way it would roll. So like I tried to fit it in a way that felt natural to the characters and felt natural to the story. But honestly, hopefully, as we continue forward, that won't be a pressure that publishers are putting on us as creators.
Yeah, hopefully. And I think right now we're seeing a lot more queer media in general coming out, especially with like Seven Seas and the manga that's getting translated from Japan, and stuff that First Second's putting out, and Scholastic, and those are the two big comic ones I know from the Big Five.
I mean, Harper's trying to get in the game. They just created this is a Harper teen.
Oh, okay.
HarperCollins just started they all just started a new graphic novel division. So there's like a lot of buying of books, and I don't know if you're looking at Publishers Weekly, but like there's a lot of announcements coming out right now, which is really exciting. I don't know what the state of publishing right now is. I think it's a little paused.
Everything's a little paused right now.
So I can't speak for currently. Oh, that was my fish timer, by the way, just turned off. The light in her tank just turned off. Yeah. And then this one also just came out, Camp Spirit. And this one is like about like teenagers at a camp, and it's kind of fun. And it's also kind of magical realism. Everyone loves that. Do you want to keep doing the comic book show?
If you want. What else was I going to ask you?
There's a question in the chat right now.
There's a question in the chat. What was your artistic process like for the Breakaways?
Okay, so I was like, should I pull out this box? And then I was like, maybe I won't pull out the box. But now I feel like I'm going to pull out the box. So we're going to take you on a journey, because this is the fun part of being in Zoom, is that I can just pull out something for you guys. So this is my box of originals. This giant box. Can you guys see this at all? Yeah, so it's extremely large and extremely heavy. So the first thing I did is I wrote the script. So here's the box. I wrote the script, and the script took a few months. And then I pitched it. So here's the original pitch for the book. So it has every character in it, a story synopsis, sample pages, which look very different than the original book. But originally it was going to be sepia tone.
Rather than in color?
Rather than in color, this is what happens there. So I was a teacher. I work with middle schoolers, as you know. And I had all these sample pages, and they looked like this, right? They were sepia toned, watercolor. And I showed them to my kids, who were ostensibly the audience. And I said, how do you guys like this comic? Like, what do you think of it? And they said, I was like, what comes to mind when you look at this? And they were like, oh, it's like old and like vintage. Because obviously that's what will come to their mind if they're looking at a sepia toned thing, right? So I was like, okay. So then the publisher requested maybe consider doing this in watercolor or in full color, digital color, because frankly that's like what cartoons look like, right? And I think it's in the visual vocabulary of kids. This is for me, right? So like when they looked at the watercolor, they didn't necessarily recognize that was media for them, but they did recognize, like, this is from the release party, they did recognize that the full color was for them.
Oh, okay. So
So I asked my partner, Kevin Chapp, who's on this call, K Chapp, they're right there. I asked my partner to color it for me, because I don't do digital coloring. I don't want to look at a computer that often, and here we are Zooming every day. Because I like don't want to do it. So like, I'm a very traditional artist. So I was like, I need to hire someone to do this for me. So let's look at some original pages. So I pulled out this box, and we may as well.
So was it, I mean, obviously the drawing is also hard, but like, which was more frustrating, the drawing or like the script writing?
Frustrating. That's an interesting thing. So the script was really hard. The script was, I'm one of those cartoonists who's very naturally writing and drawing at the same time. Like, I don't think I ever want to draw someone else's script. Like, I only want to draw my own books. And I think that, but like pure writing without images, which is what the publisher, so first, second, I had pitched them Jeremiah like many years earlier before I pitched them The Breakaways. And they told me they want to have a written script that they could edit before I drew it. Because for Jeremiah, I had it all completely drawn. And they said they wanted to be able to edit it, and they wanted to be able to edit it in script form before I started drawing it. So I realized in order to publish it, I needed to, I needed to write it in script form first. And that was a pain in the butt because it basically wasn't natural to me. It was like I would picture all the pictures in my mind and then I had to write it in words, and it was just really annoying. So that I would say that one was the most frustrating one because it just was unnatural. And drawing is always fun, frankly. I think drawing's always fun.
Drawing for fun. I haven't drawn for fun in a very long time.
You should, Sarah. Sarah, we're all quarantined. Go draw for fun.
I'm on furlough, so who knows when, so I might as well.
So here's my drawing of the castle. This is not a very helpful page because that one's gigantic. Let me see. Is this fun?
For 1 second, we've gone 40 minutes and they haven't said anything yet. So I hope that our things have kicked in. I hope that our new plan has kicked in.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yes, I think the new plan has kicked in, so we should be fine. They have
good.
Right now.
So I just want to show this. So basically, for all the pages, I sketched it first. So here's the original sketch. I sketched it and I taped it to the back of the paper. So let me untape this for you without ripping it. What if I just like destroyed my art live while everyone watched me? It's not good. So I sketched it with pencil first, and I sketched these pages just on plain office paper using a plain number 2 pencil, which are my favorite, because I realized I'm going to draw thousands and thousands of comic book pages in my life, and I didn't want to have to spend money on fancy stuff. So it's just regular printer paper and a regular pencil. And then I used a light box, and then I did the inks. And I did the inks with rapidograph pens, which are behind me. So rapidograph pens are basically these draft pens that have like little metal tips, and you can refill them. Because I get really stressed out about plastic in the world, global warming. And so I wanted to be able to refill my pens. So it does essentially the same thing as like a Micron or a Staedtler or something, but you can refill them. So I really recommend them just to cut down on waste. And then because the color process has line work in color, I did line work in a different color, which is really hard to explain without being able to see it. I'm now surrounded with detritus here. Here's the original dummy of the book I got in the mail. This is the actual book pages that the publisher sent me.
Oh, wow.
I'm ready. If anyone wants to take all my stuff to put it in a museum, I would not be sad about that. So, like if you look at this page,
that's all the colors that were used. And
these are finished colors. So you see how like the soccer lines are white on green? I wanted to be able to draw those soccer lines. So those are a separate ink layer. I might be getting too nitty gritty right now, but hopefully that's interesting to you.
It is I have so many of these comics, and like sometimes like I'll watch like live streams of people doing like drawing their art, but it's like you never see, like it's hard to process, like here's how this goes from A to B, but there's all like point between that.
Yeah, it's true. I know, it's like I ink it, but it's like more than just inking. This is fun. So this is the cover. And then this is where all the pink is where the spot gloss went.
Oh, that's cool. So like with the Breakaways, it also came out in hardcover, didn't it?
Yeah, so it's soft cover. And then it also came out in paper over board, which is like this hardcover. So it's like paper stuck to, so there's no dust jacket. Like, so this is a hardcover officially with the dust jacket and stuff. This is a proper hardcover book. This is paper over board, so it doesn't have a dust jacket. And it's specifically for school libraries, because libraries' books get beat up by kids, shoving them in their backpacks and stuff. So they specifically printed these hardcover paper over board books for school libraries.
Oh, that makes so much more sense now.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you'll see the hardcover in a store, and then you'll sometimes only find the paperback, and it's like,
yeah, I
think the hardcover.
Yeah, I think there's a lot less of the hardcover printed. I think more of the paper one is printed. I hope that explained my process. And then I did the inks, and then I sent those to Kevin, who is my colorist. And then they colored them. And then we could turn on their mic and they could explain that process, but.
So like inking is different than coloring.
Oh yeah. So like inking is just like the black key layers all around the inches, but the actual coloring is putting in all the colors, right?
Okay.
So like, trying to find non-spoilers here. So like inking is all the black, but then I did stuff like you see those drawn lines. I drew those lines. So, but Kevin colorized them.
Okay.
Yeah. So like anything that's a drawn element, I did, for the most part. Kevin did some filling in. I don't want to erase the hard work that they did.
So now that the Breakaways has been out for about a year now, is there anything else on the horizon?
Oh yeah, thank you. Just really like that segue, Sarah. All right. So my new comic is called Black Hole Heart. It's got a screen printed cover that I made myself, and then I Rizzo printed the insides. So like a Rizzograph is like a Xerox machine, but it prints in color. But it only prints one color. So it's like a purple book. So you see, the pages are all purple.
Oh, I love this.
Thank you. And so it's got a screen printed cover, and it's got little French flaps. And it's Black Hole Heart is a horror story of female friendship for readers teen and older, because I wanted to be clear that maybe this story isn't for middle schoolers, because I think I get a lot of emails from middle schoolers asking me for a sequel or asking me for another book. So I wanted to be clear that the next story, it is a horror comic, so I wanted to be sure that readers knew that it was for older audiences.
So
but not like mature, it's not like.
So that's another self-published one. And do you have any other contracts with like First Second or?
No, so I have 2 books that I'm currently writing, and I can't give a lot of hints. One has gay characters, has queer characters, and then the other one is like explicitly about queerness when you're a teenager. So I have 2 books that I'm like writing, that I'm honestly are in pitch stage, so they're pitching around. But like I had alluded to earlier, the state of publishing is mysterious right now.
It's mysterious and very vague and kind of stopped, but also not stopped.
I mean, I think it's helpful for us to examine, because this hit publishing a lot earlier than when like we started going under a lockdown in March, because a lot of publishing gets their stuff printed in China, right? And I think maybe that deserves being examined a little bit, how we kind of rely on the cheap labor of other countries, which isn't particularly fair.
I know Hanako on Twitter, she goes into a lot of in-depth explanations of how you're not going to find an American enamel pin manufacturer. Those don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the different aspects of like fandom and queer comic zones. And...
Yeah, I think we need to examine it a little bit, because I think part of the reason is questionable labor practices, which we also need to question in our own country. Yeah. And then if we're wrapping up, I have a few more plugs.
Yes. We have about 10 minutes left, so let's plug in a few more things before we wrap up.
Yeah. So I prepared myself with pieces of paper. So I have a Twitter and an Instagram. These are all backwards, aren't they, Sarah? Are these all backwards?
They are not backwards.
Okay, so it's only backwards for me? Good.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a Twitter and Instagram, Cathy G. John, and then CathyGJohn.net is my website. I have an education website, which is here, which is Comic Art Ed. So if you are looking for kids' education and stuff, comicarted.com is the place to go. And then also I have a podcast called Drawing a Dialogue, which talks about all sorts of stuff, scholarship stuff. Our latest episode is about abolition, police abolition, and what comics can do and not do in police abolition. So if you're interested,
a very timely and important episode.
Yes. So if you're interested in trying to learn more about police abolition and comics, that's a place to listen. And also, if you want to help do a fundraiser, but also get a lot of cool stuff from comic book artists, you can Venmo $5 per entry to Comics Against Cops, which is a fundraising raffle. And there's 40 plus artists, and it ends tomorrow. So, oh no, I better get on that. This is you. Oh no. And if you want to know more, you can go to this Twitter, Io's Twitter. I don't actually know how to pronounce their username. But my friend Io put this together, and I have stuff in it. But there's lots of Molly also has stuff in it. So Comics Against Cops is where you Venmo, but it's in my Twitter feed. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can find it there too. And those are all my plugs.
Awesome. What is, I mean, because publishing's still publishing things, what comic are you most excited for that's coming out later this year?
So I've read a bunch of stuff. This isn't a secret. It's not supposed to be a secret. So I am the LA Times book graphic novel judge for the book prize for the LA Times. So I am getting
really cool.
Almost every new comic mailed to me. So it's being published. That's why I have so many books piled next to me. But these two are fantastic. So Nori by Rumi Hara. This is awesome. It's by these are both by Drawn and Quarterly. This is a wonderful book. This book is super wonderful. Amma's Table is also really, really wonderful. If you read Uncomfortably Happily, which is by the same author, but it's like this thick, this is also quite wonderful. Also from Drawn and Quarterly. I might as well talk about these books. Oh, Liz also likes Nori and Amma's Table. Glad. They're very, very good.
There's so many things to read, and like I live in the pocket of romance genre and then comics.
I know.
And everything, and it's just There's so many books.
I know, there's so many books. This one's called Fights. This came out, like, I think, February, by Joel Christian Gill. And this is really wonderful. So it's like a Black coming of age memoir. And it's really wonderful, and it's sort of through the concept of different fights that he had when he was growing up. That is really wonderful. That is from Oni Press. And I wanted to include this one for you, Sarah. Have you read Letters to Licardo?
I have. Did the other one arrive in the mail? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, this is the sequel. This is a sequel by Otava, and I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. But
I know I backed the Kickstarter. I don't remember if it's coming.
Oh, Sarah, it's so good. So this is about vampires. This one's erotica, so this one's for adults, but it's so good. It's fantastic.
I know I have the PDF, because I know Spike sent those out.
And then, yes.
There's so
Sarah.
I get so much stuff from Kickstarter there. I'm like, oh yes, this arrived, and then I put it away, and then forget to check off on the little.
You should do what I do and create a really awkward pile in a very inconvenient spot in your life, and then you're like, I gotta read this because it's just like.
I mean, there are also
big annoying pile.
There are many of those.
PDFs, you're right. Unless I read a PDF immediately, I like never read it. Like I always am like, oh, I only download it when it's reading time.
I never actually download most of the Kickstarter PDFs.
Sarah, you are a good patron. And then I wanted to have a final shout out to Abo Comics, which is a comics anthology about prison abolition. It's not about prison abolition, but that's its goal. And it's by all queer prisoners. So they are people who are currently incarcerated, and they make these comics that get published by this awesome group. That's and really so this cool. Series is really awesome. Yes, and I did the cover for the third one.
Nice, that's gorgeous.
So I'm plugging Abo Comics too, which Abo Comics is also, Io is who put together this is also involved in that. So that's how I wanted to end.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Cathy. It's nice.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
And maybe is Mice canceled?
Mice is going online.
Mice is going online. Okay.
They are canceled, but they're doing online stuff. I think they're going to have workshops. I do workshops I've done workshops for Mice for many years in a row, so I hope to do a digital workshop, actually. So hopefully that'll be a thing. Oh, yeah, Liz confirms that it's virtual this year.
There was with Mice and FlameCon were the only ones I was planning on going to this year, and now it's like, well, that's not happening.
I know. I made the reason I self-published the book this year was I was so excited to hawk it at comic conventions, and now it's just probably going to be online soon, so that's where you can look for that.
I joked to my therapist that I'm going to be saving a lot of money because I'm not going to conventions.
Thanks very much, Cathy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that's great.
This was a lot of fun. It was great to see you.
It was so nice to chat with you. Thank you for everyone clapping. I really appreciate everyone who came. Thank you so much.
Yes. It was a great evening. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
And since I'm the host, I guess I'm the one who's closing this.
Right.
Bye, guys.
You are. Bye. Thanks for hosting.
Thank you.